Well, it's not just the UAW. It felt like at least the summer of strikes now spilling into the fall. More unions, in fact, are now threatening to head to the picket lines. Currently, we've got casino staff in Vegas, video game actors, and workers at one of the largest healthcare providers in the country are now threatening walkouts. We're talking lastly about workers at Kaiser Permanente. They say they're going to hold a 3-day strike as early as next Wednesday if negotiations today do not reach a deal. If they strike, that could hit hospitals, clinics, and medical offices. And this is a consistent theme that we've been talking about that is so fascinating with union membership falling back. But these kinds of actions, these really visible actions that are hitting large swaths of people that have been ramping up. The Kaiser one is interesting in particular, could affect 75,000 employees across 5 states and Washington, D.C. if it happens. And then, of course, by extension, a lot of patients.
Yeah, I mean, listen, as we were discussing, so many strikes now across so many sectors and industries, it's hard to keep up with the headlines at this point. I think big labor knows this is a moment they can act. They're looking at the labor market. They see a sub 4% unemployment rate. And they think, you know what, we can make a move here. And not only to making moves, they're going to the negotiating table and securing better pay. And to the extent that then motivates other companies and other industries. I thought what Greg just said was really interesting about the UAW. I mean, let's say Sean Fain's really able to secure, let's call it 30% pay raise over 4 years. Not only would I think that would make his members happy, what extent does that motivate others, including even, as Greg said, maybe he says it sounds far-fetched, do non-union members in all other companies like a Tesla look at that and say, you know what, maybe that is looking pretty good. And maybe the UAW makes a play for them as well. They would obviously love to bump up their membership.
Well, if you look at other industries entirely disconnected as well, I mean, the writers, for example, in Hollywood, it looks like that they got a fairly beneficial deal for themselves and got many of their demands met. So if you're a leader of a union, whatever union it may be across this country, and you're seeing these actions, it's going to be very interesting to watch union membership in the coming years.
Which is still historically low, around 10%.
Correct, exactly. But to your point, if I'm a worker in whatever industry it is, and I'm seeing this kind of stuff happen, it's quite interesting. I mean, another example of a worker action that was not among union workers happened at CVS stores in Kansas City, where they staged a walkout recently and then repeated it this week. Basically, that didn't have to do with pay. It had to do with personnel and staffing, which is part of the issue at Kaiser Permanente as well. We have seen big problems with getting healthcare staffing up in this country, and that has created big problems for those who are working, right? That if they're stretched thin in seeing patients, or if you're a pharmacy and you're stretched thin in writing prescriptions and advising patients, and there aren't enough people working there. And so CVS came back, and its chief medical officer made comments to the chief pharmacy officer, addressed these concerns and said that they are going to be beefing up staff. So these worker actions are getting results in many of these cases.
Now, the other side, though, you think about is your take on right-to-work states, right? To the extent that there are conversations happening, I'm sure, in boardrooms across this country right now, thinking they're looking to keep building operations. They're looking not quarters, but years down the line. Does that kind of motivate, okay, we're seeing the headlines, we're reading the same articles as you are. Does that motivate them and their decisions about where exactly they want to build that next facility?
Yeah, I mean, some companies have more flexibility on that front than others, right? If you're CVS, I mean, again, those weren't unionized workers, but you're everywhere. If you're a Kaiser Permanente, you have a very broad geographic footprint. So obviously there's different flexibility depending on what you do.
It's a big, powerful trend, so we're going to keep watching it.
We are.